Hey everybody, welcome back to All Fiction is Fantasy. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, I know it's been a while, but we're going to have back-to-back reviews to finish up the year of 2023. So I hope everybody is having a great holiday season. In today's episode, I am going to review what has been my favorite book of 2023. And that is In Watermelon Sugar, written by Richard Brautigan and originally published in 1973. So far with Richard Brautigan, I've read 3 of his novels. I've read In Watermelon Sugar, I've read Trout Fishing in America, and The Hawkline Monster, a Gothic Western. And I have really loved all 3 of those. In Watermelon Sugar is the best I've read. I think that is probably followed by Hawkline Monster, a Gothic Western, really cool, kind of weird West with a kind of a wicked sense of humor. And then last with Trout Fishing in America. So I'm 3 for 3 with Brautigan, and I'm really looking forward to reading more. So Watermelon Sugar is one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read. I love Brautigan's precise, condensed, and poetic-like prose style. Here's a really brief example just on the front cover here. In Watermelon Sugar, the deeds were done, and done again as my life is done in Watermelon Sugar. His use of repetition, of short staccato-like sentences, short chapters, and the way he constructs his paragraphs all lead to a somewhat musical and rhythmic quality that really does appeal to me. Watermelon Sugar is a kind of new wave science fiction story all about a group of people living together in a community called Death. In this community, they harvest watermelon sugar and use it to build a variety of things. The sun shines a different color each day of the week in Death and in the world that this story takes place in, because it obviously is not Earth. Within the community of Death, the inhabitants bury their dead in transparent tombs filled with a light-emitting fluid, which are then sunk to the bottoms of trout-filled rivers. At one point in the past, there were tigers in this world who sang with beautiful voices and who lived with the people at Death, but the tigers were eventually killed off for survival reasons. The book is just overflowing with evocative imagery, and I want to read a short chapter here. So this is on page 44, and this chapter is called The Watermelon Sun. I woke up before Pauline and put on my overalls. A crack of gray sun shone through the window and lay quietly on the floor. I went over and put my foot in it, and then my foot was gray. I looked out the window and across the fields and piney woods and the town to the forgotten works. Everything was touched with gray. Cattle grazing in the fields and the roofs of the shacks with the big piles in the forgotten works all looked like dust. The very air itself was gray. We have an interesting thing with the sun here. It shines a different color every day. No one knows why this is, not even Charlie. We grow the watermelons in different colors the best we can. This is how we do it. Seeds gathered from a gray watermelon picked on a gray day and then planted on a gray day will make more gray watermelons. It really is very simple. The colors of the day and the watermelons go like this. Monday, red watermelons. Tuesday, golden watermelons. Wednesday, gray watermelons. Thursday, black, soundless watermelons. Friday, white watermelons. Saturday, blue watermelons. Sunday, brown watermelons. Today would be a day of gray watermelons. I like the best tomorrow, the black, soundless watermelon days. When you cut them, they make no noise and taste very sweet. They are very good for making things that have no sound. I remember there was a man who used to make clocks from the black, soundless watermelons, and his clocks were silent. The man made 6 or 7 of these clocks, and then he died. There is one of the clocks hanging over his grave. It is hanging from the branches of an apple tree and sways in the winds that go up and down the river. It of course does not keep time anymore. Pauline woke up while I was putting my shoes on. "Hello," she said, rubbing her eyes. "You're up. I wonder what time it is." "It's about 6. "I have to cook breakfast this morning at Death," she said. "Come over here and give me a kiss and then tell me what you would like for breakfast." So this book came into my life at just the right time. My dog had just died and I needed something like this. It's not a feel-good book in any way. As a matter of fact, the core conflict within iDeath, a confrontation with a man named In Boyle, who leads an opposing group of people in his own community, ends up being one of brutal violence. However, the book totally captivated me. Some books take a bit of time to get into. Each time you pick up the book, you have to build up a little momentum to get into the style of the author, to get into the world, to get into the prose, to get into that magical space that we all want to with a book. However, that was not the case within Watermelon Sugar. Every time I sat down to read this book, from the very first word I read, I was instantly captivated. I was instantly drawn into. I was instantly spirited away into the world of this book. And I felt this kind of calming peace that came over me while I was reading the book. And it was just a perfect scenario. I also want to read a brief portion of this chapter here. And this is on page 28. And this is called Vegetables. Pauline's shack was about a mile from iDeath. She doesn't spend much time there. It's beyond the town. There are about 375 of us here in Watermelon Sugar. A lot of people live in the town, but some live in shacks at other places, and there are, of course, we who live at iDeath. There were just a few lights on in the town other than the street lamps. Doc Edwards' light was on. He always has a lot of trouble sleeping at night. The school teacher's light was on too. He was probably working on a lesson for the children. We stopped on the bridge across the river. There were pale green lanterns on the bridge. They were in the shape of human shadows. Pauline and I kissed. Her mouth was moist and cool, perhaps because of the night. I heard a trout jump in the river, a late jumper. The trout made a narrow door-like splash. There was a statue nearby. The statue was of a gigantic bean. That's right, a bean. Somebody a long time ago liked vegetables, and there are 20 or 30 statues of vegetables scattered here and there in Watermelon Sugar. There is the statue of an artichoke near the shingle factory, and a 10-foot carrot near the trout hatchery at iDeath, and a head of lettuce near the school, and a bunch of onions near the entrance to the Forgotten Works. And there are other vegetable statues near people's shacks, and a rutabaga by the ballpark. A little ways from my shack, there is a statue of a potato. I don't particularly care for it, but a long time ago, somebody loved vegetables. I once asked Charlie if he knew who it was, but he said he didn't have the slightest idea. Must have really liked vegetables, though, Charlie said. Yeah, I'd said. There's a statue of a potato right near my shack. We continued up the road to Pauline's place. We passed by the Watermelon Works. It was silent and dark. Tomorrow morning, it would be filled with light and activity. We could see the aqueduct. It was a long, long shadow now. We came to another bridge across a river. There were the usual lanterns on the bridge and statues in the river. There were a dozen or so pale lights coming up from the bottom of the river. They were tombs. We stopped. The tombs look nice tonight, Pauline said. Certainly do, I said. There are mostly children here, aren't there? Yes, I said. They're really beautiful tombs, Pauline said. Moths fluttered above the light that came out of the river and from the tombs below. There were 5 or 6 moths fluttering over each tomb. Suddenly, a big trout jumped out of the water above a tomb and got one of the moths. The other moths scattered and then came back again. And the same trout jumped again and got another moth. He was a smart old trout. The trout did not jump anymore, and the moths fluttered peacefully above the light coming from the tombs. So I think In Watermelon Sugar will be a yearly read for me now. I haven't had a yearly read in a really long time. I used to read Einstein's Dreams every year. I love that book. It's in my top 10 of all time. This does remind me of Einstein's Dreams in its dream-like qualities and in its ability to capture my imagination in a very powerful way. I sometimes lament the fact that I didn't discover Brautigan earlier in my life. I think he would have been an author that I would have appreciated a lot in high school and when I was in college. However, part of me wonders if his work would have connected with me in the same way that it is now as a nearly 50-year-old adult. Regardless, I'm very grateful to be able to read him now, and I'm going to buy every book I can from Brautigan. I don't think I'll buy his books online. I think I will keep him to be something special where when I'm out at a used bookstore and I look and they just maybe happen to have something by Brautigan, I think that would be make the hunting of Brautigan a little more serendipitous, a little more random. And I think that kind of fits with the kind of writer he is. And I think maybe he would appreciate maybe appreciate that a little bit. But yeah, if you want to read something that is quite different, something that is kind of a different take on the new wave of science fiction, I do highly recommend In Watermelon Sugar by Richard Brautigan. So, all right, guys, take it easy. Talk to you later. Bye bye.